joining us here on another edition of our Mini Masters. Tonight is a very special Mini Master because it will be our last live. Because we have so much going on here at Khumo Studios. Hold on a second. One of our people having a coughing fit. Let it out. Just cough it out. This is what happens when you go live. When you go live, these things happen. So it'll be our last live because we're going to be now filming these in-house so that we can put them out. Primarily because we have so much going on right now in our home here at Khumo Studios that I don't always have time. So I don't want to get into a position where I don't get the time to put these out. So we're going to pre-tape some of these and put them out. That, however, does not mean that you guys still can't ask questions, and I will do my best to answer them on the very next one when I see them. So please make sure that you continue to tune in and support and ask your questions. You decide, you dictate what we talk about. It's up to you guys what you want us to be talking about every week. So for this very last live on Facebook and Instagram, we're going to be talking about this thing right here. So you're looking at it and everybody's like, what the heck is that? Well, as you can see, the young lady standing in the center has to make some choices. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go up? Do I go down? Do I go north, south, east, or west? Which way do I go? So we're going to talk about that as it relates to both actors, writers, and directors. Producers, okay, we'll talk about it as well. And then I look forward to hopefully having some really intricate and interesting conversations with you guys as we get into it. So first, let's start with what my producer always wants you to talk about, acting. She loves me to talk about acting. So acting is what we'll talk about first. So let's start with, what choices do actors have to make? Let's think. I'm over here. Okay, thanks guys, it'd be nice. I'm over here talking to this camera. So see, this is what happens. Won't have to worry about that anymore. I'll know what camera it is beforehand. No more problems with me talking to the wrong camera. So apologies for everyone not making eye contact, and I'm looking like I was looking crazy. Apologies for that. All right, so again, actors. What choices do actors have to make? So when you're an actor, the biggest thing that I know as a director for me personally that I'm always looking for in my actors is, are they making choices as far as their character? So when they've read the script and they figured out who, what, when, why, whatever of their story, their backstory, whatever story they've made up for themselves to help them figure out how to move through this world that the character exists in, I always want them to be making choices. I want to know what you're feeling at all times. And when I say what you're feeling, I mean you, the character. You are portraying this character. What is the character feeling? What's going on inside of them? So I'll give you an example. So if you're doing a scene, I did this once before. If you're doing a scene and the scene requires you to be, you're having an emotional moment with a particular person, the build up to that is some of the things that I like to get in with my actors. Like, what are you thinking, feeling before the moment? People are always like, oh, I don't want to cry on camera. Oh, it's hard for me to cry on camera. Oh, it's difficult, whatever. I said, for me personally, it's not hard to cry on camera. I've actually been able to do it myself. And what helps me is knowing what came before, setting yourself up in the moments before, making it real for you before, making choices. Are you upset already at this person before the scene? Are you already in an emotional place? Or are you fine? And then you find yourself completely thrown by some new information. Your father died, your mother died, your cousin died, your dog died, your fish died, whatever it is that gets you excited, it gets you into the space. I want you guys to always be thinking, all my actors out there, always be making choices. I think that stands for something. Always be making choices. I think it's ABC. Yeah. So ABC, it's the ABCs of acting. Always be, we'll forget about the M, making choices. So always be making sure that you're deciding in some form or fashion what your character is feeling, what emotion you're driving, where are they in the moment, where they've come from, where they've entered, and where they're going. Always the same thing every time. I've said it before. Am I back here now? All right, guys, pick a camera. All right, so I'm back here at this center camera. Oh, I'm going to both. All right, I'll play to both. They want me to dance between both cameras so that these guys over here feel my love and these guys over here feel it. Great, not a problem. So let's make sure that we're constantly making choices as an actor. You don't want to be caught in a moment. Like I remember somebody saying this to me once, and I thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. Don't get caught acting. Meaning, don't get caught in a moment where you're to be or not to be. That is the question. Because if someone sees that, immediately they know it's not genuine. They can look at you and go, you're not being serious. Like if I sat here and said, I'm so angry. I'm not really angry. You can feel it. It's not coming through. But if I actually took the time, got myself into a place as an actor, put myself into that space, and then really, really allowed myself to feel the feelings, then I can create these moments that you're talking about. So please, actors, I beg you, if you're new, if you're old, if you've done this 10 years, if you've done this 1 year or 1 day, always be making choices. A, B, C. Forget about the M. So always be making choices. I want to see you guys making choices. Even if they're the wrong choice for the director, guess what? I'll tell you. Or whoever's directing you will let you know. And then they'll ask you to make another choice. And then do that. Make the next choice. Consistently be prepared to make choices. Choices, 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 choices. Choices, choices everywhere. And all of them for you to choose from. So choose choices often. Is that something else I can turn into a little something? Now I'm going to stick to always be making choices. So A, B, C. Let's take the ABCs of that and let's roll it over. Unless, before I move on, are there any actors with questions about the choices? Any questionable choices out there from our acting group? To me, any to me questions coming through? Anybody? 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 Nope. All right, cool. Perfect. Moving on. I'm going to assume that means everybody's geniuses and they all get it. Uh-oh. Is there one? Should I wait? Is that a look? Is that a look that's telling me somebody, as usual, when I'm about to transition to another thing, people come in? All right, great. Moving on. So the next one, let's do the ABCs. Always be, forget about the M, making choices. So we're going to go into writing. So as a writer, one of the things that you're always constantly struggling with is what's happening in every scene. What are the scenes? What am I trying to say? What am I clear about? And if anybody who knows me know, I'm always pushing outline, outline, outline. So I'm going to assume that everybody's gotten that down and they've outlined their story. They've outlined their script. So now when you get into this second stage, the script is done, you've done your work, and you're rereading it for your rewrite, you begin to ask yourself, what works? So here are the choices I want to put in your head. When you're sitting down to do a rewrite for your story, the choice I'd like you to be making is, how does this make my story better? How does whatever it is I'm about to do, cut, add, whatever, make my story better? If whatever you're about to do cannot handle that sentence, if it cannot make your story better, then don't do it. Also, if what you're about to do means you have to cut a whole scene or a whole bunch of scenes or a couple of pages because you realize that whatever the scene is, whatever the moment is just not making your story better. It's not supporting the story you're trying to tell. Even though you love the scene, by all means, be brave, be strong, be ready, and cut it. It's necessary because sometimes you're going to have to cut stuff in order to make it better. I call that adding by subtraction. Sometimes you have to take stuff away in order to make something better. That also works in relationships as well. So, but that's a different conversation for a different time. as my team looks at me and goes, Some of them understands that. All right, so let's move on. So let's take these ABCs out for a walk and down the street to the next topic, directing. So as a director, how does the ABCs work for you? Simple. Always be making choices works for you as a director because you're only making choices. You choose everything as a director. And if you don't know that by now, you're not directing, you're playing. So if you want to be a director, you are making choices from the word go. As soon as you read the script, the choice you're making is, do I do this? Do I not do this? The next choice you're making is there changes that need to be made for you to make it better, for you to add to the story, for you to either give to the writer or for you yourself to go through and do it. Whatever those changes are, make them. As long as they don't destroy the story. Make sure you're clear about the story is before you start making changes. I'll give you a quick analogy. I heard this recently and I thought it was the best little story not even an analogy, but a story that I just heard recently. So apparently many years ago, Ford, I can't remember his first name, but he was the guy who created the American car Ford company. The original Ford, I think it was like the late or early 1900s, he had a situation where he had to hire two gentlemen and he took them out to dinner. So he was letting both of them have a meal on him. They're talking, having a good time. And at the end, he turned to both and he said, thank you guys. Thank you. I'll call this one John and I'll call this one Paul. Thank you, John. That was a great time. Thank you, Paul. That was a great time. John, you will be going into taking this position. Thank you so much. Paul, thank you for your time. But unfortunately, this is where our time ends. Paul, confused as he would be, sits there, looks at Mr. Ford and is like, Mr. Ford, I don't understand. What did I do? We sat here. I thought we had a good meal. I thought we had a good time, a good conversation. And Mr. Ford said to him, I think it's Henry Ford. And then Mr. Henry Ford said to him, Paul, you're right. We did have a good time. We did have a good meal. But when the meal came, you ordered steak, as did John, as did I. And when the meal came, John tasted his steak and then put salt on it. You put salt on it and then ate it. And Paul looked at him, why is that a problem? Well, I want people in my company who will first try something before they change something. And Paul was like, oh, okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but and of course he looked taken aback. But Mr. Ford said, what? And even with that not being said, there was one other thing. He said, when the servers came and brought the plate, John said, thank you. You didn't notice them. I said, thank you. You were very polite to me. You didn't see them. And I need people in my company, beyond just people who try something first before making changes. I need people in my company who respects the people who work beneath them, even all the way down to the janitor or the guy who's serving you your meal. And if you can't be that, then you can't be working for me. So he used that as his way to cull his choices, to figure out what he needed to do. So as a director, how does this fit? Simple. When you're making your choices, be careful with them. Take as much time as Henry Ford did to create a system in which he was able to figure out what's going to help me to get what I need. And what I need is X, Y, and Z. So what do you need? What do you need for your story? What do you need for your script? Do you need a director of photography, someone who you've worked with before? Maybe. Maybe you need someone you've never worked with before, but you've seen their work. Get them. You have all these choices to make. And as a director, as my good friend Grant always says, the king of the mountain, your job is to pick everything, to choose everything. So make sure you choose carefully, you choose wisely, you choose slowly. There's no rush. Make sure you choose the people, places, things that are going to support the outcome that you want. And for all directors, the outcome is the same. The best possible version of your story. So make sure that you're taking your time with that. There is no rush except for the rush that you put on it. If you want to be Russian, be Russian. If you don't. Take your time. You have it. And lastly, let's see, we'll take these ABCs out for a stroll again. Down to producer lane. Producer lane. Now, what do the always be choosing have to do with producing? Simple. Producers have to choose what fight are worth the fight. I say this to you guys because there are going to be things that you're going to want to fight for. And people tend to want to fight for everything. People want to fight for their rightness. Hell, people fight for their wrongness. But you don't have to fight for everything. Everything's not a battle. I made a decision very recently in the last 3 years, that I no longer am interested in having arguments with anybody. So when people come and they throw things at me, I immediately just tell them my truth, hear their truth, and I'm done. Because anything further is an argument. One more conversation and we're now having an argument about what? About whether or not I'm right and they're wrong, whether or not they're right and I'm wrong. It doesn't matter to me whether you're right or I'm wrong. I'm right for me. I don't need you to be wrong for me to be right. I can be right and you can be right. It's okay. We can both be right in our own perspective. So when you're thinking as a producer, you got to ask yourself, again, same thing like the director. Your job is to be there to support the outcome of the project, the highest version of that. You must be, as Michelle Obama says, you must go high when everyone else goes low. You must see above all of the noise and the craziness and the madness. Your job is to make sure that the director's vision is brought to life, not your own. Some producers get into a space where unfortunately they forget it's not your project. If it fails, they're going to blame the director. Then maybe blame you, but they will almost always blame the director if something isn't good. Poor directing. No one ever says, poor producing. I've never heard that. They might say poor acting, they might say poor writing, but almost always they say poor directing. So as a producer, if you want to be the superstar, rock star producer who every director wants to work with, discover something I've learned just recently in the last couple of years. Pick your battles. Not every fight is a fight. Not everything is worth a battle. Sometimes you have to decide what's important. What's important to the story? What's important to the overall vision of your director? What are you going down the road to get? Are you getting him or her the things that they need that are going to ensure that their vision is realized? Or are you just getting in the way? And if you are getting in the way, move. Recognize that when you're battling with a director, you're wasting time. Why are you battling with a director? His or her vision is the one you're supposed to be in support of. There should be no battles. Stop putting your ego above the story, above the project. Let it go. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're all fighting ultimately for the same thing, for this thing to be good and or great. Now, that's not to say, let me just say this. That's not to say there aren't going to be times where you're going to have a director who, for lack of a better word, is an idiot. And if that happens, then you have to figure out, how do I support this idiot to help him or her get to the goal of the best possible version of this film and still make sure that they don't screw it up? Or if you have the ability, if that's the power that you have, you can always get rid of them if that's the power that you've been given. If it isn't, then you have to work with them. Or you can get rid of yourself. If it's too much, if it's too difficult, if it's too hard, and you and this director cannot come to an understanding, then remove yourself, because you are in the way of the vision that the director is trying to produce for this project. And as a producer, you want to always be producing. So you got the ABCs in that one, it'll be always be producing. But you're always making choices. So what are the choices that you're making? Who do you want to be in this moment? How much fight is the fight worth? Now, people are saying probably like, is this all stuff to do with production? Production, nobody makes a movie, nobody makes a film, nobody makes a video by themselves. This whole business, this whole entertainment business, this business of entertainment is a collaborative effort. It takes more than one person. It takes many, many people working together towards a common vision. And if you are not helping the vision, you are harming the vision. So you must always be asking yourself, do I understand what the vision is? And two, am I working to the highest possible place to create this vision? And if you're not, get out of the way, people. Just remove yourself. There's not enough money in the world to ruin your reputation. Because I promise you, if you stay in something and you are the problem, you are the one causing the issues, everybody already knows that. And I promise you, they will not work with you again. I don't care what position you have. There are many actors, as you guys know, Kevin Spacey, who are currently not working. There are many of them out there who are unemployed. There are many producers who you guys have never heard of, who people will never work with again because of bad behavior. There are many directors, same thing. So don't think that you're above it all. Nobody's career lasts forever. I don't care who you are. If you're being an idiot, meaning if you're being the guy or girl who are getting in the way of the goal of making sure that it's done correctly. So make sure ultimately for everybody across the board, when we think about the ABCs of the business of entertainment, always be choosing to support the greater vision of the project. Otherwise, always be choosing to get yourself out of the way. So with that being said, do we have any questions, concerns, issues? Because I'm always choosing to have a conversation. So I want to have a conversation. So please tell me that some of you out there are willing to do so, because this might be the last time we'll interact in this way, as we'll be moving, as I said earlier, for those who may have shown up late, we'll be moving to a pre-recorded situation starting on the very next one after this. So I'll be recording that one on Wednesday. So if there are any questions left today, I will answer those on Wednesday. And I'll say the same thing in every one that we put out whenever. It'll probably be the following Wednesdays, so that you have a chance to ask your questions. So any questions?
Speaking of choices, do you think a writer should be specialized in one specific genre?
Speaking of choices, do I think a writer should be specialized in one genre? Let me see. If you were a chef, would you only cook one type of food? Would you only fry foods every day? Would you only make cakes? Some people do, but even ones who are bakers don't just make cakes, they make all types of food. So the reality is no, because when I know for me personally as a writer, there are stories that call to me that cross genres, and it pushes me. And when I have to write something scary, that pushes me. When I have to write a horror, or if I have to write a love story, which I haven't done I actually have not written a love story in a very long time, and it's something I'm looking forward to doing at some point. But if you have to be willing to put yourself into the space of uncomfortability. I push you guys, again, let's use the ABCs. Always be choosing to be uncomfortable. Nothing grows in comfort. In your uncomfortability, do you push yourself? Do you grow? Do the walls that you exist in, the box that you exist in, you can expand it and see the boundaries of it and how far you can go. Don't let yourself get locked into one set. With that being said, if you're really talented and are a really talented writer and a genre that you love is sci-fi, if that's your thing, if you're just in love with sci-fi, by all means, tell sci-fi stories. But sci-fi can also have subgenres. It can be sci-fi with action. It can be sci-fi with romance. It can be sci-fi comedy. It can be sci-fi whatever. So you don't have to, even within the framework of whatever you get into, Western, action, drama, there are subgenres within it that can still push you. So don't feel like you have to be stuck. Because I personally believe that if that happens, you don't grow. And if you don't grow as a writer, what are you doing? Then your stuff becomes stagnant, it becomes stilted, it becomes weak. And then all of a sudden you find yourself wondering, why isn't anyone hiring me? Because your stuff isn't good anymore. The thing that was dynamic about it is stopped happening. And what's dynamic about anyone's good work is if you go out there and push yourself. So the ABCs of that, always be choosing to push yourself. Don't settle for just one genre. What else you got?
What's the one thing that a producer must absolutely know?
I'm sorry?
What's the one thing that a producer must absolutely know how to do?
What's the one thing that a producer must absolutely know how to do? You have to learn how to smell smoke. You have to be able to look around you and be able to figure out where the fire might come from, is coming from, has come from. Those are the things. You have to be able to spot the problems before the problems are problems. You have to be able to, and like I said before, being able to recognize if you're the problem. And if you are the problem, make a course correction or remove yourself altogether. But it's been something that has been a huge help in my career, moving in everything that I've worked on, being able to walk into a room and to walk into a production and very quickly look at it and go, this is the issue. The issue is this, or this is going to be an issue. And then I don't say anything. I watch it and I try to figure out a way to curb around it, to circumvent it, to ensure that it doesn't rise to the level of a true fire. Because the thing that's so important in your job as a producer is to ensure that things are happening well, that the wheels never stop. You don't want to interrupt the flow. Everything has to be moving, everything. So that means there are times that you're going to have to take the hit yourself. I've done it 1,000 times. I've done it 1,000 times and I'll do it 1,000 times more. Where you walk into a situation, something may have been on fire, the director comes over and asks what's going on and you simply go, nothing. And then you tell them about it later, much later, because you recognize either knowing your director or knowing the situation that it was going to cause a bigger issue. To tell your director in that moment, oh, this producer said this and this, or this actor was drunk. All of a sudden, that's a thing. And now the director's concerned about that, as opposed to being concerned about what? Shooting, production, the filming, the actor, the things that are important to ensure that the project succeeds. So sometimes you have to be willing to take all of the crap and let it all land in your lap and then hold it and put it away, because you're choosing to put it away because you are focused on making sure that the production wins. What else you got? Mr. Richards, thank you for hanging out with us today, Mr. Richards. What else you got?
Phil from Denver.
He's really with us today. What does he have?
It feels as though everyone wants to say they are a producer.
It's facts.
But they don't know what it means. What does it mean to be a producer?
Well, being a producer entails, I've talked about this before. I think I know what Denham's trying to say is that being a producer means you're responsible. You're responsible for all the things that are the intangibles and sometimes tangible things that people aren't paying attention to. So in terms of the tangible things, you're responsible for time. You're responsible for scheduling. You're responsible for budgeting. In some cases, you're responsible for getting the money, depending on what you're coming in as. Because producers have different roles depending on where the production is. Whether it's the pre-production space, what you're doing in pre-production as a producer is vastly different than what you're doing in production as a producer, which is vastly different than what you're doing in post-production as a producer. All three of these things require different skill sets. So in pre-production, it's planning, it's sitting down and figuring out all the potential issues from budgeting and scheduling and all those things that you need to know to make sure that the project succeeds. Then in production, it's supporting and ensuring that everything that you set up in pre-production goes off without a hitch. But of course, there are always hitches. So your job is when those hitches come to make them less bumpy, to ensure that the director and everyone else that doesn't need to be thinking about it don't even know that it happened. So that when it's over, they're all sitting around going, wow, that was the best production. It was so easy. Nothing happened while you're sitting there bald because you pulled all your hair out. Yeah, I used to have a full head of hair, guys. All right, and then the other one is post, where you're sitting there, you're trying to make sure that everything that has been done from pre to production to now in post all comes together smoothly into the vision that the director wants. So making sure that you're supporting the director again and making sure the shots that they need are there, but also that you've already planned in case there are shots missing, that you've put money aside, contingency funds, to ensure that if you've got to come back and do some pickup shots, you have that money to do so. And if you don't, then you still have the money there for anything that you might need to help in post to elevate the project. These are all the things that you'd be thinking of. And there's a very truncated version of it. But basically a producer, much like a director, but in a different way, you must know a lot about a little and a little about a lot. Every part of production, from beginning to end. You're one of the first people to get there, if not the last person to leave. And when this thing is all said and done, you and the director are probably going to be the last people in the room who started out with this project and are ending with this project. So you want to make sure you're ready for that long haul. Everybody's not built that way. Some people want to just get to production. They just want to get to the fun stuff. And the problem with that is the fun stuff requires preparation. People think that, that freedom is free. It's not. It costs. Everything has a cost. Whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you're trying to do, there's a cost to it. And if you're not prepared to pay it, then you shouldn't even get started. And that wholeheartedly revolves around producing. It's so much work, more than I've even said today, way more. And some of it's about being a psychologist when you don't want to be. Some of it's about being an apologist when you definitely don't need to be. It's about being the visionary for people who can't see around the corner. It's about being one of the smartest people in the room, but making sure there are people smarter than you that you could turn to. It's about recognizing your strengths and knowing what your weaknesses are so other people can support. It's making sure you build a team around you that can ensure that the vision and the biggest vision of any production is completion, that the completion vision is supported, and that when you bring your director in, that his or her vision is part of that completion vision. This is the work. It's a lot. And if you can't do it, I recommend you don't, because some people only end up becoming, exactly as I said earlier, the problem in the production and not the solution. Because that's your job as a producer, to be a solution maker in the production, not a problem. What else you got?
Last one from Denim.
Come on, Denim, let's go.
What's the difference between an executive producer and a producer?
Well, executive producers, the title, immediately people think, the big boss. But that may not necessarily always be the case. It can in productions like a feature, when you're thinking in terms of, let's think of like Hollywood terms. So if we're looking at like a Marvel movie, the executive producers tend to be the companies. So Marvel, I forget where they're under, Disney, Paramount, I can't remember. But whoever that is, those would be the executive producers. People tend to also associate executive producers with the money, which is often true. Executive producers are often the ones who brought the money or are bringing the money. They're the ones who ensure that this project is being supported. They're usually one of the first people to get money back on the other side. So next time you're at a movie theater and you see the list and you see executive producer, pay attention. Those are the money people. Those are the people you want to know. And if they aren't the money people, they're next to the money people. So if you don't know them, you're not going to have the money that you're going to need for your projects. And you'll see many of the same names over the course of time, because many of them will do one movie, it'll do really well. They'll take that money and they'll invest it in another movie. It'll do even better. And now they can invest in 2 movies, which both do well. Or they invest in 10 movies and 7 of them do well and 3 of them don't. But they still are making money because now they figured out the system. So yeah, executive producers tend to be the people who have usually final say when it comes to the financing of the film, how much money they're putting in. They tend to be the production company or studio that are involved in the project. They're usually, one of their big executives are usually executive producer on a project to oversee the money, to ensure the money is being spent correctly and there's no problems. although that can also be a supervising producer. So the difference between an executive producer and a producer is a producer tends to be the person who's working on the project day to day. They're there from the script phase, usually when the script is coming through and they're trying to figure out if they're going to do it, all the way through to post-production. The executive producer may not necessarily be in it all the way. They may come on after the script has been greenlit, meaning somebody has said, we're going to do this as a film. Now we just need to get the money. Then they might come in at that point, or they may be the one who brought the script in to begin with. But they're definitely not going to be boots on the ground every day on set, making sure everything is running the way it should be running. They're not going to be sitting in on every meeting. They're not going to be sitting in production meetings to figure out who's doing what, where, how, when, and they don't care about it. They're big picture. They're out there trying to figure out the publicity and making sure the financing is going well and the distribution deals. They're working that, as well as the producer. Those are the conversations that the executive producer and the producer will tend to have. Have we already got the plan mapped out? Do we know what it looks like? It's higher up here. It's the business conversation. So when you think in terms of an EP, executive producer, they're taking care of business, while the producer is taking care of business and taking care of the artistic side, the production side, making sure all of that stuff continues to flow the way it should. Hopefully that helps to separate those two for those of you that don't get it. So the next time somebody runs around at you and goes, I'm the executive producer, the first question you should ask them is, oh, how much money did you put in? And if their answer is none, then you have executive produced nothing. You're just some guy who thinks you're in charge. And if that's who you are, then you should be a producer. And if he's not doing that job, then he should get out the way.
Okay. Should we expect a movie from Khumo Studios in the near future?
We should expect a movie from Khumo Studios in the near future. Yes, we should. We should definitely expect a movie from Khumo Studios in the near future. We're in the process of, actually, we had a conversation about one today. It's about, I guess you're gonna have to wait and see. But it's gonna be good, and I think you're gonna like it. Is that all we got? As Toomey runs from one computer to another to see what else is asking questions.
What's the difference between a line producer and a production manager?
Okay. Ooh, good question. I gotta go right back into the bag. God, there are questions you guys ask me that force me to remember things that I didn't even know that I had forgotten. So, line producer, their job is to manage the hiring and getting everyone in for the job, for the production. So their job is they manage the money, along with the unit production manager, they manage the money and they make sure that the money is allocated appropriately to everyone involved. So they're hiring all the department heads who then hire their support. They tell the department head what their budget is, so they know how many people they can hire, what they can afford to hire. They'll tell them stuff like, hey, Toomey, we're budgeting you for 3 assistants. And he says, I only need 2. Great, then you only get 2. And we'll take the rest of that money and we'll use it for something else. And that's how that works. And they'll reallocate funds into spaces. But their job is to ensure that every line, and it's a line, the line of the line producer comes from the line items on the budget. Every line of your budget, they account for. So they know where all the money went and to whom and to where and to why and to how. And oh my God, when I remember doing that, my head explodes from all the numbers. It is a lot. And what was the other thing? Or a production manager? Our production manager, right below them, their job is to manage the production. Usually dealing with paperwork, as it recalls to people's contracts, making sure those contracts have been signed and they're appropriate and everything's set up correctly, ensuring that people's payments are being allocated the way they should be. Payments, not just in terms of checks, but in terms of payments to payouts to places and companies, making sure that if you're renting a space, that the rental payment is paid and that the contract for that is super clear, that we know we have it for 6 weeks or a month or 6 years or however long you need to have it for. Making sure all of those things they're really paper pushers. Being a production manager is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You work 12, 13, 14-hour days because you have to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And if there are issues, if all of a sudden something pops up financially, you have to be right on top of it along with the accounting department to be able to figure out where did that mistake, issue, problem come from.
Given the small audience in Botswana, is Botswana your target audience?
For what?
For your production?
No, none of our productions are targeted for Botswana, I'll be honest with you. Our productions are targeted for Africa. We don't want to just tell stories. We want to tell stories that come from Botswana, of course, because we're based here. We want to give an opportunity for those stories of the history and heritage in the world wanted to be told, but we're not going to be beholden to this small space. Just like I was saying before, I don't want to be stuck in a small box. We're looking to be in a big box. I want the box that's as big as all of the continent of Africa. I want to be telling stories to all the different African nations, not one. We want stories that start in South Africa and end all the way up in Egypt, in above sub-Saharan. We want to go all through it. We want to be able to tell everybody's story. And while that might be challenging, we're excited to take on that challenge because we know that in every country we visited so far, from Zambia, I hope my Zambian family are out there. Thank you guys for supporting us. To South Africa, thank you, South Africa. To Nigeria, my Nigerian team, how you guys doing? To all of the countries in between that we'll be visiting in the next few months. We know that all of those countries have a story to tell. I know this for a fact. There is not a person, there's not a culture, there's not a being alive on this planet who does not have a story to tell. Whether you have the capability of telling it or not, it doesn't matter. We have the capability of telling it, and we're gonna tell it. Every time I turn on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, I'm reminded at how many stories are out there and how many stories have been lost. When I see them talk about stories in my culture, African American and Caribbean, we see all these different stories that have come through that people didn't even know about. I'll hear about a painter, an artist, a scientist that people didn't know existed, but that their contributions to the world are immeasurable, and we feel it now. We're experiencing that now. Like George Washington Carver, who many people still don't realize, peanut butter, George Washington Carver, slave. But these things don't necessarily always come through in the way that they should. So who's telling these stories? It's up to us. It's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to all of us who are in this filmmaking community to decide that we want to tell these stories. Otherwise, no one's ever going to hear them. No one's ever going to know the story of your mother's struggle to get to where she is, your father's journey to be in the position that he is, your struggle to become all that you are. These things have to be told. And the only people who have the power to tell them are us. So Khumo is going to tell them all, not just Botswana, but all 54 countries in Africa. Did I get it right? 54 countries? Yay. I learned something new today. I was clear. I thought it was 52 for a second. I took a wild guess that I was wrong. All right, excellent. The American school system, so much to be taught. Is there another question?
What's the difference between a director of photography and a cinematographer?
What's the difference between a director of photography and a cinematographer? Nothing. It's the same thing. A director of photography is a cinematographer because your job is the director of photography, let me be clear. A cinematographer can be a director of photography because they are doing basically the same job. Director of photography, their job is basically light management. Their job is to look at the light in all of its forms, natural, unnatural, artificial, whatever it is, and figure out what is it going to do to my actor? What is it going to do to my scene? What do I need it to do? Do I need it to slice through the scene like a knife? If that's what I need it to do, then I'm going to create that. They have that ability along with their gaffer and their team to create the light that they need. The cinematographer, basically, because people, I don't know why you've separated it, but you're doing the same job. Your job is to ensure that you're the camera person, the lead camera person, if you will. After you've set the light, your job is to help set up the shot, to ensure that the shot, like for instance, the shot that I'm in right now, this shot was set up by someone. The lights that was placed here to ensure that there's no lights on the screen, there's the lights hitting me in just the right way, that I could give that title of director of photography to someone. I'm not, because they still have work to do. But in terms of the cinematography of it all, if I got up and started moving, then they would have to really be good, because now the light has to know that when I move, the light has to be consistent. And if it isn't, then that's going to be a problem. Then you've not done your job as a true director of photography. So if you're watching a film and when you hear them say the cinematography is bad, it means that something like that. You start to move, you leave the frame, and the camera did not follow you. And since the camera didn't catch you, then they missed the whole moment. And if that happens, well, God, somebody did it. Somebody should be fired because they really messed up. But the reality is you want to make sure that if you're going to do that job, that you understand cameras, that you're a tech brain. I am not. That's why I always have a good DP, director of photography, to support me so they can tell me what lenses I need. And after we sit and we work out what the shots are. And then I can tell them what my vision for the scene is, and they can help me to map out what the camera move or the camera placement and the lighting is. I almost knocked down my nice Khumo merch. Always pitching Khumo merch. Here, sitting for you at $19.95. It isn't. I don't even know how much this is. Somebody's gonna have to tell me. But they are for sale. So with that being said, I hope that answers that question a little bit, if not a lot of it.
As local creators who write stories, create animations, how can we contribute or be involved in the telling of these stories, specifically with Khumo stories?
Okay, somebody just said something that got piqued my interest. Are you saying you're a local creative? Where do I look? Who am I talking to? Which camera is that? Is that here? Is that there?
Ola Boy is right.
What's his name?
Ola Boy.
Ola Boy. Ola Boy. Let me say to you, if you are an animator, we were just talking about this literally yesterday in a team meeting. And we said, and I'll quote myself, I'm the one who said it, there are no animators here in Botswana. And I'll go even one further, and you can come for me. There are no good animators here in Botswana. If you, sir, believe yourself to be one, call us. Reach out. Our information is always posted. Call us, send it, animator, hashtag to me, and I will get it, and then I will respond with your contact information. Because I want, or send it right now. Send it, DM it to Tumi Bear, my producer, and she'll get me the information. I'll give you a call tomorrow. Because we are honestly been talking about doing some work in that space. But we didn't think anybody here could do it. So what was the whole, I'm answering a question you didn't ask, but I had to jump on that. What was the actual question again?
How do you think we can be involved in the telling of stories with Khumo?
Well, I did answer it. That's how, by giving me a call. So if you actually are an animator, or if you are someone in the creative space who thinks that you have a story to tell, let us know. Send us a message. We're open to hearing about it. But I've told people before, we're focused right now on the stories that we're trying to tell that we already have in-house. And we have a ton of them. But that doesn't mean that we're so stupid or so closed-minded or so single-minded or so focus-driven that we're not aware that somebody might come with something better. So if someone comes with a really great idea, I will never deny a great idea. Even better, if your idea is fully formed and it was more of an idea and it's a script or a summary or a synopsis, I'm all for that. So come talk to us, make sure that your idea is fully formed and that you can protect it, because I don't want to be accused ever of thieving someone's idea, because we all know that sometimes we feel like our ideas are like our children. But unlike our children, an idea, you will always have another one. Sometimes with children, you're happy with the ones you have, and sometimes unhappy with the one you have. So either way, all right, I personally am happy with the ones I have. I hope they're watching. I love you guys. All right, what else?
Due to Botswana having a small audience, what do you think is the best way to join and work in production?
The best way to join and work in production is to start your own production. If you want to tell a story, then tell it. Grab 3 of your friends, grab 2 of your friends, grab 16 of your friends, and go shoot something. I shot something. One of the first things I shot was with 7 of us. Actually, it was 32 of us got together at a restaurant, the Fridays, Magic Johnson Fridays in Inglewood, California. We met, and it was a great meeting. 2 weeks later, it was 5 of us. It had whittled down to 5 because only 5 of us were serious about this work. I don't know what the others are doing. I wish them well. But those 5 got together and we formed a production company. And over the course of the next 3 years, we shot over 15 short films. Why? Because we found a group of people who agreed with the sameness and the vision that we all had. So if you really, honestly, truly wish to shoot something, the size of Botswana has absolutely nothing to do with it. If you want to shoot something, shoot it. Find a place to put it. Make sure you know where you're putting it, as I always warn you guys, before you start shooting. So if you want to shoot something for YouTube, for Netflix, for Hulu, I don't care. Then find out all the things, the criteria you need to make sure that you can get it to those places. Then shoot it within those frameworks of that criteria and put it out. If Netflix says no, if Hulu says no, if Amazon says no, if BTV says no, if MultiChoice or UPIC says no, then put it out yourself. Make them See how good it is by getting everyone else to see how good it is. I promise you, if you're talented, if you're good, people will notice. But you have to put the work in and you have to be consistent. Consistency is the key. You can't start it and then stop. We started this mini masters what, 3 months ago, 4 months ago? And we've done what, 14, 15 of these things. We've only stopped for a power outage and for a holiday. Those are the things that have shut us down. Otherwise, I'm always asking the team, are we doing it? Are we doing it? What is going on? Even when we were tired, we did it. Even when we were annoyed, we did it. Even when it was a bad day, we did it because we committed ourselves to doing it. So if you're going to do this, if this is truly, as I said last week, your calling, then do it. A, B, C. Always be choosing. Make a choice. If this is what you're doing, choose to do it every day, all the time. And then put it out there and someone will see it. We'll see it. Send it to us when you're done. We're always willing to look at something finished rather than something someone's trying to do. Because trying just means you think you might fail. Because I say that to people all the time, they don't get it. Guess what? Try to stand up. Go ahead, try to stand up. All of you are standing up because you didn't try to do it, you just did it. So don't try to be in the business of entertainment. Be in the business of entertainment. Get to work. What else you got?
Can we get a little bit of insight on the productions?
No, you can't get insight on any of the productions that Khumo Studios is working on because that's proprietary. What I can tell you is this. We're in development on a number of projects. We will be looking to start production hopefully in the next 2 months. I hope, knock on wood, if all things go well, because it's always about getting things together and making sure everything's right, on a couple of television series and hope to have those things out at the top of the year, if not before the end of this year. It just depends on editing and how to, it's a whole process. You can plan, but things always change. Otherwise, everything else is still in development. We don't want to rush anything. We could put something out. Heck, it'd be easy. But we want to make sure that when we do put something out, that it's good, that it's worthy of the effort and the work that we tell you guys all the time to do it. We can't hold you to a standard and then hold ourselves to a lesser standard. We have to actually hold ourselves to a greater standard. You know why? Haters. Because as soon as we put it out there, the haters gonna come and they're gonna hate. And if it's not perfect or damn near close, they will find something to poke at. And even if it's perfect, they'll still find something to poke at. But we have to make sure that, at least for us, we've done our due diligence to ensure that we have something worthy of you.
Do you hold open auditions for series or movies, and how can one be able to participate?
No, we don't hold open auditions. The last couple of auditions that I've had have been targeted auditions where I've asked my staff, Toomey has been working, my producer here. She's been doing a lot of the casting, directing work for us over the course of the last 2 weeks, getting me people. So if you're interested, you think you're talented, you think you have something you want to share, probably in the next 2 weeks, I'll say we'll start opening calls. I'll also be advised on this note, we're going to be having a new project we're doing next month called Last Sundays. Last Sundays is going to be held at the Three Chiefs Monument here in Habarone, as I say it the way that all Botswana say it. So I want to make sure that you guys are all aware that when we're putting out a call to all creatives. So if you're an actor and you want to come do a scene, come on out and do it. If you're a director and you want to work with your actor and get it right, get it right. If you're a singer and you want to come practice a song, work on your stage presence, get over your fear, push yourself, come on out. It's going to be a vibe. We want to have a nice chill time. It's going to be on the last Sunday of every month of the rest of the year, all the way through until November. We're going to be doing this last Sunday. And we want you guys to all come out and support your local artists. People are always telling me that the Botswanans are not talented. And I want to say to you guys, you haven't seen the ones I've seen. Because the ones I've seen are incredibly talented. I've seen incredible singers, dancers, actors, musicians. Some of the musicianship. I invite all musicians to come out. I don't care what genre, jazz, rock, classical, opera. Remember we had an opera singer who wanted to perform with us at Masadi Khumo, and for whatever reason she wasn't able to. I invite her to come on back. Please come on down and be a part of this. If you can't make it to the first of the last Sundays, which is next month, June 25th, then come to the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth. I think the fifth might be the last Sunday. But come on out and support. Be a part of this event. It's going to be fun.
How do you intend to infiltrate the various African countries in terms of marketing once your collection comes?
Oh, I don't like the title, infiltrate. Oh, you make it sound like we're going to war. I hope it's not an infiltration. I hope it's a business strategic move. I think what we're going to be doing is really looking at creating connections in these spaces to ensure that the products that we put out already have a home. So even before we start to put them out, if we're putting out something, for instance, just to use a company here with BTV, we would know where BTV fits. If the contract we sign with BTV means that no one else can use it, then that's what we've done. We made that call. Now BTV go to wherever BTV goes. If we decide to do something with UPick, same thing. UPick, wherever their stuff goes, is where our stuff goes. Then if we decide to go with a Netflix or a Hulu or an Amazon or a Disney or a Paramount Plus, whomever is going to be here, same deal. So it's less about trying to infiltrate different African markets as much as it is having these business conversations early enough, strategic conversations early enough so that you can plan all this stuff out, so that you know what markets are already open and who do you need to be connected to. Because if BTV only goes I know it doesn't, but if it only goes to just Botswana and South Africa, then we're only limited to these two places. But if we wanted it to go to Zambia and Namibia and to where I don't know what else is nearby, guys. Zimbabwe and all these other countries in the region, then we want to make sure that we're smart about the decisions we're making. That goes back to our always important conversation about the business of entertainment, making sure the business comes first, and when you do that, the entertainment will always come. Is that all she wrote? La fin. Oh, la fin. Is that a word? Is that a thing? Is that French? These people. All right, everyone. Thank you all as always for an informative conversation. I appreciate you guys. The conversation will not be over, will never be over, but it will transition as we move forward. We won't be live anymore, as I said, so I will miss these live chats, but they will be real, and we will try to answer your questions. So please continue to send us questions, concerns, issues. The next one I'm going to look to film, I'm scheduling it right now as we're talking with my team, is going to be on Wednesday, so that we can maybe try to do a couple episodes then. So if you have questions about production, if you have questions about the way production is handled, or just silly questions that you think no one has an answer to, throw it our way and we'll be able to bring them to you. We'll even shout you out, let people know who you are, say your Facebook, Instagram, whoever handle, and let them know. So this is the last time that I'll say, as always, thank you for joining us here at this live Khumo Studios event on Instagram and Facebook. But it is not the last time we'll be doing it. So continue to support us. And as always, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to join us. Now you can tell them whenever you want to join us, because you can find us whenever you want. And hopefully those of you that missed out on any of the previous masterclasses, they are available to you. Go ahead and check them out here on our Khumo Studios page or anywhere else on Instagram or Facebook. Hope you've already signed up and I hope you're following, and I hope you're involved in everything we're doing. And I hope you have a great evening, a great production. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, because a lot of our content as we push forward are going to be living there. There and on our channel that we look to create. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what we're building. Khumo's just getting started, and we know it's not easy. We know that this whole business of production and this entertainment of production, for those who still don't get the business part, is not easy. But if this is truly your calling, if this is truly what you're doing, look what I'm about to do, guys. ABC, always be choosing. Choose the thing that makes the most sense to you, and let everybody else, tell them if they won't support you in the process, they can get out the way. All right, see you guys soon.